Stella Anning, welcome to Australian Musician.
Thank you so much for having me.
You've got this great new album, Yellow Brick Veneer, coming out on September 3. You've released two instrumental albums so far, under Stella Anning Trio. Why did you decide that now was the time to record and release a vocal guitar album?
Honestly, if you had have asked me 5 years ago, I probably would have said I wasn't going to do that. Even though I've always enjoyed singing and I sing for other people, usually backing vocals. But I think because of lockdown, I didn't have anyone to sing with in the same way. And also, I had a baby. So it's kind of hard to tell which one it was, the chicken or the egg. But definitely having a baby just made me want to write words, which I had never really wanted to songwrite before. So, yeah, that's what really changed. I was always singing, but the songwriting came from having a baby, becoming a mother, and maybe just having more time to reflect through COVID and all of that. So, yeah, it was a strange transition to become a singer later in life. I've always been a guitarist first. That's always been sort of my identity. And I love guitar, and it will always be a big part of my life. But yeah, changing to say you're a singer is it's a lot to take on. Singing is really difficult. I've been getting a lot of singing lessons and even just songwriting. Now I'm getting delving into songwriting a lot more and trying to do different songwriting prompts and stuff. So I've definitely opened myself up to a whole new creative experience.
Yeah. Some may label this album jazz, but it's so much more. It's blues, it's soul. What were the albums that you listened to growing up, and where does the jazz soul vibe come from?
Yeah, I guess when I was growing up, my dad was into Crowded House. He was into Prince, probably anything that was mainstream, Janet Jackson. But he was also into John McLaughlin, a lot of that 70s rock and stuff like that. But then when I got to high school and I was playing guitar, and I realized I really enjoyed guitar and I wanted to pursue it. I knew I wanted to do it as a career. So I asked my parents if I could move to a more musical school, and that was when I went to Blackburn High School. And that opened me up to jazz. That was the first time that, the big band was such a big part of the school curriculum at Blackburn High. And everyone was so excited about jazz. So I got into jazz at that point. And I remember just going to like JB Hi-Fi and finding like looking for jazz albums, and that was when I found George Benson was the sort of first gateway guitarist for me for jazz, and I was just obsessed. It was just one of those like this is jazz, like a compilation album, but it had a lot of his 60s tunes, and yeah, it just got me really excited about jazz. And I would say I was always sort of into R&B growing up as well. That was sort of, not from my parents and not from school, but just my own sort of passion. So I had a bit of everything growing up. And I think being a guitarist, you're also drawn to the blues and rock a bit too. So yeah, it is a bit of a everything. I really love mainstream bands like Alabama Shakes, that is headlined by Brittany Howard. So I really love that grit and that, just power that comes with her voice. So yeah, lots of different influences.
Yeah. Yellow Brick Veneer is the title track, the opening track of the album. Why did that track deserve title status?
Yeah, I think that it is maybe not the most showy tune on the album, but for me, it sort of sums up what the album is about because when it was COVID and I found out I was pregnant, and then we purchased our first house, which is a yellow brick veneer, which aesthetically is not my favorite visual thing, but it's the place where we've made home and love and a family, and also the time that we had solace in lockdown and had all this time to reflect. So I feel like it's just sort of the building blocks of this album as well. So of my life and the album. So it just felt like it was the right one to be the title track for the album.
Yeah. Did you have a producer or someone to bounce ideas off?
I recorded with Joshua Barber, and I guess he does put on a bit of a producer hat, but I would say he's also very good at just making you believe that your ideas are the right ones. I don't feel like, even though I wanted him for that, what he brought to me was just to have the confidence in my own ideas. But so I wouldn't say he was really, a strong, like, taking the lead on things. He more just gave me the freedom to trust and love what I'm already doing. So I love Josh. He's excellent. He's just incredible. But also the band have always been something that have helped build the songwriting. Richard Rose is on bass, and he plays in the Black Jesus Experience and in Standing Circle, and he is just a really great friend of mine. We met in John Flanagan's band, who's a folk singer, and Richie is really musical and passionate, and he's always coming up with ideas for the song. So I'd say that he has a big part in that as well. But also, yeah, I basically bring a song to the band, and then they'll add their magic to it.
Yeah. What's your approach to guitar solos in the studio? How much is mapped out and how much is improv?
I'd say most of it's improv, but I might have a vibe that I want to bring to it already. So I might have some ideas in my head, but it is improvised, which I guess, varies a lot to like a rock album or something like that. And that's where I would say this album is still, it's not that produced. It is quite a live album. It is some of the songs I played guitar and sang at the same time on the recording, so it was just a live take. Um, and some of the songs I just knew that I wanted to sing first or play guitar first. So there was a bit of everything, but I wouldn't say it was, very produced. Even though I love that sound for other people, it's just not my natural creative process for my own music. So yeah.
The track Travels reminds me of both Bill Frisell and Tom Verlaine. Have those two players been an influence in your music at all?
Yes, definitely Bill Frisell. I already have my tickets for the jazz festival to go see Bill Frisell.
Yep.
Um, yes, yeah, they're both great guitarists, and I would say them, and also, I mean, Steve Magnuson here in Melbourne, and yeah, probably France Wynn as well. Just that song was, yeah, definitely a nod to Bill Frisell. That's probably the main influence there. I am a massive Mark Ribot fan as well, but I wouldn't say that comes out in Travels.
Yeah. There's such a variety of guitar tones on the album. It Will Only Break You has also such a great sense of space. Where did you learn that from?
Oh, where did I learn my sense of space? I mean, I went to Monash University and did my jazz course there, and I guess that gave me all of the fundamentals, as Rob Burke would always go on about how important fundamentals are. And I did learn off Steve Magnuson for a while there. Um, but I guess just by being, I think Melbourne holistically, the Melbourne jazz scene is very good at, listening, and it has a special sound that I would say being in the Jazz Lab Orchestra more recently for me has been a great building block of um, just like knowing what the Melbourne sound is for me and being able to listen to each other. And I feel like the Melbourne jazz scene that I sort of am in, especially by being in the Jazz Lab Orchestra, it is very um, beautiful music and maybe influenced by folk, because when you think about Australia, a lot of us, especially like white Australians that have really, colonized here, we came from folk music, and I think that is a big part of the Australian jazz identity here. We're not always swing music, because we don't come from America always. So I think that folk jazz is sort of where that song is influenced, which I think is what I've been hearing a lot of in the Melbourne scene. I would say that song, I mean, it's definitely not jazz at all in my mind. It is influenced by more of the Australian artists that are on the radio today and not necessarily doing jazz, but just contemporary, rock and Hannah Cameron, not rock, but folky
Yeah.
pop, stuff like that. So lots of different influences.
Yeah.
One I would say is influenced by Australian music a lot.
Mm.
Yeah.
Not Good Enough is a beautiful song accompanied by some beautiful piano. Who's playing piano on that one?
Yes, Celine Messinas is playing piano on the whole album. She even played vibes on one of the tunes, Fair on Him. So yeah, that tune, yeah, I gave her a lot of creative liberty at the start. I had a sort of concept of how I wanted her to do the piano intro, just as a jazz composer, having written a chart, like I gave her something, and then she sort of said, "Oh, I think I want to go with this. How does this sound?" And we went with that. So she's an incredible musician. She's just won the or received the Take Note grant that is through the Melbourne International Jazz Festival for this year. So she'll be doing a performance later on in the year with her own project, which is like metal jazz. So it's very different to my music, but she's just, yeah, she's a beautiful player and great friend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When the Trees Are Moving, But the World Is Still has a gorgeous acoustic guitar on it. What are you using on that?
That one is just my old Maton from, yeah, I got in high school. I do have a beautiful Cole Clark as well, but we decided that we wanted it to just be not plugged in, but just acoustic in the room. Recording at Josh's studio in Malongahip, I think that's how you say it. It's that Ballarat way. He has this old converted church that he's made into the studio, and there's a fireplace. So you'll actually hear that on the album. You can hear the fire crackling. So it was nice to have the sound of an acoustic guitar that was live in the room for that song. Yeah.
How did you mic it?
Um, I don't remember what microphones he used, but he had two different mics. Yeah, I couldn't tell you much about.
Yeah.
That's not my. I don't nerd out on microphones.
Yeah. I wonder how important the track order was to you. I know Ash is a very pleasant way to end the album. It has a lovely contemplative vibe to it. Did you think
Yeah.
much about the track order?
Yeah. The track order is difficult, and I will have to say that that one didn't make it onto the vinyl
Oh,
because I wanted to make sure the quality of the vinyl is, good enough. I could have fit them all, but I just wanted the sound to make sure the sound wasn't compromised. So I cut that one. But obviously, if you order the vinyl, you'll still get the MP3s digitally as well. But yeah, Ash does feel sort of like the end of the album because it's quite eerie. Also, I guess, I've got vocal tracks, and then I've got travels and when the world is moving and Ash that are all instrumental. So I did struggle a bit with how I wanted that order to be, because I wanted it to be sort of a break from the intensity of whatever I had been talking about, or singing about rather, because some of the songs, are quite heavy content. So, trying to create the ebb and flow of the album. And I felt like Travels was a perfect one to have a nice break in the middle of the album. So, yeah,
yeah. Speaking of vocals, do you have influences in regard to vocal stylings?
definitely. I love a lot of different vocalists. Kristen Barati comes to mind a lot, who's an incredible Australian singer who now lives in Germany. And um, ironically, she was at the Clarence Jazz Festival earlier in the year, and she came to my gig. So that felt like a really weird full circle moment, especially as a guitarist that grew up loving her and not realizing that I was later gonna sing in front of her. Felt quite strange. I have taken a lot of influences from trying to find instrumentalists that sing because I just find that that's really interesting. And I'm a huge, huge Esperanza Spalding fan. Um, I went and saw her at Hamer Hall. I guess that was last year, which was an incredible gig. I've seen her a few times, but just loving to figure out how to work your instrument in with your vocals is also, it's one thing to transition to singer. That's another thing to try and figure out how the work because I definitely feel like I've had to compromise what I do on the guitar sometimes because I have to focus my energy on the vocals, which I think can also be great because maybe I don't overplay on the guitar in moments. So Esperanza Spalding, last year when I was at Banff, in Canada, I also got to hang out a lot with Ganavia, who is a beautiful singer, and she has also been mentored by Esperanza Spalding and has picked up the double bass since she's been traveling with Esperanza Spalding. So it was cool to hang out with her and talk about the dynamic of vocal to your instrument. And Gian Slater, like all of the Melbourne vocalists, I've been getting lessons off Nina Farrow. So, she's more of a contemporary soul singer. And I do love soul. So I love that in my vocal to be a bit stronger. And yeah, so there's a few
Yeah.
influences.
What were the main guitars that you used on the record?
At the moment, my main guitar is kind of a copy of a Telecaster. It's a Bacchus guitar, which is handmade in Japan. That's pretty much on the whole album. It's just that, and then the acoustic Maton. So yeah, I do love guitars, and I have a few. Don't have 20 like some guitarists. Probably have like 7 that I rotate, but the telly at the moment is sort of just my go-to all the time.
Yeah.
I have this big kind of jazz guitar, but I don't love this one. I definitely want to try and get something that's a bit smaller because I feel like as maybe being female or just being a smaller person, like I want something that feels small as well. So I do want to get some kind of jazz guitar that feels it fits me a bit better because sometimes they can feel quite large, and I think that's important too because I have had like technique issues in my hand before. And I feel like if it's on a smaller guitar that feels comfortable on me, then I don't have those issues. So I've had to navigate that over the past couple of years. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the telly's good like that. And then also I feel like it's got that Bill Frisell kind of sound. Like I just really enjoy the sound of it. So yeah, but I feel like my last album I did use a PRS a bit, which I still have, but it's not really my love right now. So yeah,
Yeah. Uh,
telly.
as I was saying earlier, there's a lot of different tones on the album. Much going on in the pedal board.
Yeah, I mean, I do love just distortion, which is probably pretty apparent on the album. And I'm just using a Fender Blues Junior on the album that, it's been a little bit modified, but basically, I just love that it's such a small amp and that you can drive it quite a lot. So yeah, I've got a Hot Cake, which is my favorite distortion pedal. It's just like a warm, I think it's made in New Zealand. It's been a while since I've thought about that. And then, I mean, I've got just delay and reverb, pretty stock standard stuff, and a volume pedal, and just another like booster. I've got an RC booster that just to get different kind of levels of distortion, really.
Yeah.
Um, so the main thing is just that, yeah, like classic kind of rock sound. I'm not really doing any sort of wiggy sounds on this album, but maybe on the next one, I have just been diving a bit more into pedals recently, back into it. But yeah, I do love just a classic kind of rock guitar sound.
Yeah. Um, you've got dates throughout September and October. So it's a 4 piece. So,
Yeah, so the four piece is doing a little tour. We are going to Canberra, Smith's Alternative, that's September 20th, I believe. And then on the Sunday, we'll be in Nowra at El Horses. Monday, we're doing Monday Night Confessions in Sydney. And then the next gig will be October 5th in Melbourne at Shock Kickers. We do have some gigs later in the year that we'll be going to Adelaide to go perform at Coma. That'll be in January, and we'll also be going to Tasmania to do a few gigs, Pablo's and Mona. So yeah, and we're also doing a couple of regional areas, like we're going to Trentham, but that one will be solo in October.
yeah. So the album Yellow Brick Veneer is out on September 3. How will it be available?
It will be on all streaming services, but you can also purchase it through Bandcamp or through my website, and there will be digital or CDs and vinyl.
Okay. And what's the grand plan for Stella Anning?
Over the next, I don't know, what are we talking? 1 year, 5 years, 10 years, world domination. I definitely am looking to go back to trio mode and not sing for a little bit as well. I want to keep both. Now it's kind of hard. I've kind of created this a little bit of a problem for myself because I do love the guitar trio. So I'm thinking I want to do my masters and do some more study about the guitar and the role of the guitar in the guitar trio. That's sort of what I've been doing some research on recently. So I'm looking at doing that. And I've got like a trio gig later in the year at the Paris Cat with the trio. But I will also be probably, hopefully, recording later next year. I want to do maybe a solo recording because I did do a solo tour earlier this year doing some of this material and other material. So I just like the idea that I can now, as a singer, I can just do solo gigs, you know. So I've got this whole world of other gigs that I can do on the road and go to more regional areas, which can be hard when you have a whole band, you know, because cost and just access to so many things. So, and I really love travel. I love touring. So solo touring is one way that I can do that a bit more financially. So solo, but also I do want to record again with the band. We've already got a few new tunes. So yeah, it sounds like a lot. That's pretty chaotic just for all of my own projects, but wait and see, I guess.
Yeah. All right, Stella, it's been great to chat, and you should be very proud of the album. I'm really enjoying it, and we'll see you out on the road.
Yes, thank you so much for having me.